Hello, my name is Joe and welcome to another edition of Joe's Linux channel. Today I'm demonstrating how to install a virtual machine on a Windows desktop. And in this case it's going to be a Linux virtual machine. We'll be installing it on VirtualBox. VirtualBox is available from Oracle at virtualbox.org and it doesn't cost anything. And this is basically a little place where you can put various different virtual machines so that one computer can seem like many. The utility of this allows you to run various different operating systems with different configurations on top of a single desktop, so that if you want to try out software without, say, mingling it with the software that you use every day because it's beta stuff, you're a little worried, is it safe? You can have it safely contained inside one of these virtual machines. Or if there's just no reason to mix it with your regular day-to-day stuff, if you want to just keep it separate, there are many different reasons to run virtual machines. The operating system that we'll be installing today is SolydK. SolydXK is the website that this comes from, and that refers to the fact that they have the SolidX and SolydK distributions, which refer to the XFCE desktop, or in this case, the K desktop environment. So we're opting for SolydK here in this case, but they're both pretty good. This one's designed to be lightweight, so it works really fast on older machines. SolydK is a little bit more polished and a little bit more pretty, and it's a really good distribution. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and create a computer which I will call Krios, and Krios will be a Linux computer. Now this part, don't worry too much about. If you're not really sure what to pick, you can always choose other Linux 64-bit or 32-bit. It's going to depend on which one you've picked up. 64-bit is generally what you find these days. The easiest way to tell the difference is that if your operating system is able to use more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, it has to be a 64-bit operating system. If it's limited to 4 gigs or less, it's a 32-bit operating system. That's the delimiter there. Operating systems at the time of this recording are all 64-bit, so it's very unusual to find a computer with only 4 gigs of RAM anymore. Although this virtual machine is only going to get 4 gigs of RAM, but I'm still going to choose 64-bit. In my case, I'm choosing Debian because the Solid X and K operating systems are derivative of Debian. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and portion, as I mentioned, 4 gigs of RAM for this virtual machine. I'll create a virtual hard drive, so it doesn't use its own dedicated drive. It's just going to have a file that pretends to be a hard drive, and it will be dynamically allocated. So here we'll go ahead and we'll create this, and instead of going by default, it wants to put everything in a C drive. For some people that's okay. In my case, I've got more than one drive. So these are solid state drives and SSDs, and I don't want the virtual machine beating them up and chewing them up. So I've created a directory here on this hard drive, my recording drive, and that way it will run there. Let's see, and file size, let's give it, let's make the hard drive about 30 gigs, it should be good. And it's dynamically allocated so that the operating system sees it as having 30 gigs available, but the file doesn't swell to 30 gigs in size until there's 30 gigs worth of data in it. So it just reports that to the OS, but otherwise it's not taking up that much space in our hard drive. So let's go ahead, and here we'll go here to the settings. I'm just making sure that I've got everything set that I want, because there are a couple little housekeeping things. For example, here we'll tell it it's got dual processors. Enable these features. And now here's one that you may have to enable on your motherboard, whether it's a BIOS or UEFI. You'll want to have this turned on for hardware virtualization. That's something that we utilize here. In fact, I think it's a requirement of this program. Let's see, the video memory. I'm going to bump that up a little bit just because I want it to have nice video playback. Yeah, I figure this computer can afford let's see, we'll give it 80 megs for video memory. It only has one monitor, although you can see it can scale up if you wanted it to. It even has a remote displays and capture specific videos and whatnot. Let's see. Now we have to tell it where it's going to get its operating system from. So as you can see, we have two controllers here, which are designed to emulate a hard drive and a optical drive. And in this case, I'm going to tell it I would like to go ahead and use the SolydK ISO. You'll be able to notice mine comes off of a network, so that's why it looks a little strange if you're not used to seeing things like this. Is the server name, Atlas. All of my computers are named after Greek mythology characters, depending on what their jobs are. So just for fun, here's your homework assignment. You might want to look up Krios and see who Krios was. Alright, so I'll go ahead and click OK. And so now the virtual machine knows where to go and get its operating system. So I can just say start. Oops, oh, by default it popped over on the other screen, so let me just drag it over here. And so here it is booting up. Notice, we have Linux running in a window. Now if we want to, we can go ahead and go to full screen mode just by clicking this here. Yes, computer, yes, I know. You love to tell me. VirtualBox has all kinds of wonderful things to tell you, so you don't have to feel like you're all alone as you're trying out these various different Linux distributions. So as you can see, the SolydK ISO is bootable, and so is the SolidX one as well. So if I had burned this to, if I'd copied this to a USB stick and set up a disk image, it would be ready to go. Okay, so let's go ahead, and installing it is as easy as clicking SolidXK install. So here, let's see, English, Pacific, oh yeah, Los Angeles is close enough. Give it a name. So this will be the username that we log into the computer with. You can choose whatever you want, and choose a password that you feel is something you could remember. Let's see, host name, well, as we mentioned before, Krios. Now, by the way, here's an interesting thing. It is case sensitive. So if you didn't know, Linux and Unix computers are very case sensitive. So if I were to go forward, it's like, hey, that must be in lowercase. So just a little caveat, type your host name in all lowercase. Otherwise, you'll get that angry message. All right, so no partition table found. Would you like me to create it for you? Sure, absolutely. So I just click forward, and I don't worry about any of this other stuff. And it says, go ahead and install everything you want. And I'm like, sure. Matter of fact, here, I'll go ahead and install this too. Oh, whoops, might be prohibited in your country. Well, here, we'll just try it out. Various different countries have different laws regarding distribution of certain software. It's not pirated, SolidXK. Let's see, I believe this comes from Denmark originally, and so they just have some different things they want you to read and be responsible for whatever it is that you select. Multimedia codecs, things of that nature. It's all legal stuff. If you ever look up things like MP3, and there's all kinds of legal stuff tied up with that codec, I was like, oh, I just want to listen to my songs. And it's like, but there's all kinds of issues and problems and other nonsense. So some countries require licenses and others don't, and because this is going internationally, it behooves the user to know what the laws are in their individual country. All right, so let's see. It's going to take a few minutes here in order to install itself and set it up. And so I was going to take this moment to point out that if you've ever had a friend, or if you could call them a friend, that will when you say, I'm thinking about trying Linux, and they'll give you this spiel about, ooh, if you try Linux, ooh, you're going to have to support it all by yourself. Ooh, you really want to do that? It might be really hard and complicated. Does it look really complicated so far? I mean, I'm just like clicking things. It basically looks kind of window-ish. And I was also going to point out that typically when Windows users have problems, it's not as though you can call Microsoft and ask them for any help. Usually it's some local computer repair place that charges way too much in labor, and you end up either getting a friend, relative, or to help you Or in the worst and most extreme scenario, and I'm always sad when I see this when I go to people's houses, I'll be invited over for dinner, and I happen to look around and I start to notice all these computers that are doing imitations of doorstops. And then when I ask, there's physically nothing wrong with those computers. But the reason they're unplugged and in a closet or, in a room someplace is their operating systems became corrupt. Windows. And it was cost prohibitive to have a technician service them. So you have a computer which physically works just fine, but its operating system is self-destructed for whatever reason. Bad updates, downloaded something bad on the internet that chewed on it, Moon was in the wrong position, whatever. And sadly, they're not getting the utility out of those computers anymore. Or, maybe they're worried about security updates. It might be some version of Windows which has been abandoned by Microsoft Vista, where, Microsoft's like, ooh, if you use that, you're going to get hacked because we're not going to support you anymore. Thanks for the money. And with something like SolydK, you could just stick it in there and bring that machine back to life. After all, most of the time, it seems like these days, 80, maybe 90% of what most people do on the internet is just sit there at a browser and look at things. And hence, that's why Chromebooks, if you've never seen them, have been so popular. It looks like a laptop, but instead of having like all kinds of hardware inside it, it's basically, it's just a browser and that's it. So you open this thing up and presto, you have Google Chrome on a Chromebook, and you're able to sit there and go on and do all the things you do on the web. So once you're doing things through a browser, it doesn't matter what operating system you're using. So that's why I tell my friends, I'm like, don't be afraid of Linux. You can run it in a virtual machine the way that you're seeing me do it now and try it out for yourself. So it's taking a moment here to finish installing the various different packages and get everything set up. Notice that it says 15 to 30 minutes, but we're just at 12 minutes, and part of that was just me giving my little thoughts on this. So it just depends on how fast your computer is. So faster machines will do it much, much quicker. Oh, one other thing that, as I mentioned, you can make bootable USBs of this, and I'll have another video on that. It really comes in handy for testing out hardware. So if you have a computer and it's not working, you're scratching your head wondering, do I have a corrupt operating system or has one of my components died? That's where those USB sticks really come in handy, because you can put them in there and have the computer boot and then try everything out and see whether or not it physically works, or if it's just that the other operating system is just not doing what it's supposed to anymore for whatever reason. And this comes with LibreOffice. Libre is French for free. So it's a really nice office suite. In fact, I happen to love LibreOffice quite a bit. It's what I had always hoped the regular OpenOffice would be, and it is a development of OpenOffice. I finally have an Office package that's easy enough to use and reliable enough to use. LibreOffice is my main Office suite whenever I'm not using my one and only one Windows machine, which, well, okay, this is shot on the Windows computer, but all the other computers here, they all run Linux. And they're all very, very happy. Okay, installation is complete. Restart? Yes. Okay, so our little virtual machine is restarting itself. Now keep in mind, we're still on our Windows desktop. It just doesn't look that way. It's just taking a minute. I keep expecting it to pop right up and be all set to go. Whoops. Uh-oh. All right. Now I have to have a chat with SolydK because it's still booting off of the image and not off of the install that I just did. Whoops. Okay, well, this can happen. So here, let's go to Krios here and say settings, and remember here where I put in storage. So now we're going to take that away, and let's see. I'll just say host drive. So now it's actually reading my Blu-ray player in here, and so it doesn't have that image to go and grab, and that will force it to grab the stuff off of the virtual hard drive instead. So let's go ahead and power it back up. Okay, finally, this is what we should see. So SolidXK is ready to boot. Yes, 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 I understand that. Good grief. Boy, you are belligerent. VirtualBox wants to make sure you know these things. Okay, as you saw, we got the Krios login. So now our K desktop environment is starting, which is our nice graphical user environment, so that you don't have to learn any of those really horrible commands. You know, you can just use this as any other computer. So it asks me, it's like, Joe, what is your password? And I'm like, it's that password that I chose a minute ago. So the K desktop environment initializes, and all right, so we now have SolidK, the Linux desktop made easy. All right, so just like with, and I guess it has a little thing to tell us. It's like, hey, welcome. We have software, we have support, we have forums. Their forums are actually very good. I do recommend stopping by. And so it has all the various different information that you can have fun reading. Oh, let's see, what other stuff is in here? It talks about various applications and things that you can do. And GIMP, you'll love it or you'll hate it. The GNU image manipulation program is really a very powerful graphical editing tool, but it takes a bit of getting used to, especially if you've been corrupted by Adobe products like me. I'm having to learn it. Handbrake, I use this quite a bit. This is great for transcoding. Let's see, what's another good one here? Oh, gparted. Oh, VirtualBox. Oh, it's recommending what we're actually running on the virtual machine on. So I can look at this another time. All right, so now we have this nice virtual environment, and it should already be connected to our network and nice and happy. So let's see. Of course, who knows? That could be a local copy. So just to make sure, let's go to an actual website. In fact, here's a great website. So all right, so that has been another edition of Joe's Linux channel. So if you want to find more of these videos, you can always come on down at Joe's TV and click on Joe's Linux channel. I hope that you found this video useful. So that way you can set up SolidK for yourself and have fun trying it out and seeing all the various different features. It's a fun operating system. It's not very heavy. And once you get comfortable with SolidK, perhaps you might choose to actually install it on a physical machine. I've got a couple of computers here that run SolidK as their only operating system, and I'm very happy with it. See you next time.